We all know white Egypt is a joke, but how did that lie even get started? And how did the Euro clowns sell the idea of whites in Africa anyway? With Napoleon's incursion into northern Africa in the early 19th century, Egypt had finally come back to the white world's attention. While Napoleon's troops were busy giving the Sphinx a nose job, Francois Champollion, a fellow Frenchman, was deciphering the hieroglyphs. Both Champollion and Count de Volney attested to the Egyptians having been Africans. At this time, not even one European or Arab said the Egyptians were white, but then again Champollion and de Volney were not racialists. Unfortunately, it wasn't long after France reminded the white world of Egypt's glory that the white supremacists from the US and Britain rushed to Africa. The white world hadn't taken an interest in Egypt since the time of the Romans, and the Europeans had never cared about Egypt at all. So why the sudden interest? What had changed? What had changed was that there was now a white supremacy myth that was the flimsy glue holding the white world together, and these twisted minds converging on Africa realized that myth was about to come undone. But the white revisionists had one major advantage: the public's ignorance. Black Egypt was merely common knowledge in the global mind, not an established fact. Since mass production of books didn't exist yet, the public had no specific pictures of the Egyptians' own artwork or translation of their writings to attach blackness to. It would be no problem for the revisionists to get the white academic world behind them. After all, the doctrines of black inferiority came from white universities. Most of the book and magazine publishers were white university men, just like the white supremacists who were rewriting Egypt's history. Not only would these colleagues eagerly publish these lies, they'd also ensure anything to the contrary simply wouldn't be printed in books or magazines. The cool, rational analyses of men like Herodotus and Champollion had now been outlawed. The racists were about to rewrite history. These men created Egyptology, the first racial philosophy masquerading as a science. From now on, the Egyptians would no longer be the last word on their own world. White scholars would be the authorities now. They began the whitewashing of Egypt using the popular medium of that day: books. This is a scene of Egyptian women drawn by the Egyptians' own hands. See any pale skin, any blonde hair or blue eyes? But this was what the whites put in their books. This is an image of Princess Kemsit. Her name means the Black Lady. Notice she's being tended by white slaves. But in white books, they show the opposite. Queen T, King Tut's grandmother, and her husband Amenhotep III. You can guess what whites did with those two. And with the advent of movies, their propaganda now had the advantage of sound and moving pictures. No one realized it at the time, but whites were manufacturing their own image library. Since there were no images of white Egyptians, whites simply decided to fabricate their own. Every few years we see another big-budget propaganda piece. Different stories, but always the same lie. And after 100 years of this, the whites' manufactured images are now more familiar to the world than any of the ancient Egyptians' authentic pieces, which whites almost never show. In a world where most people get their information from TV, and they think that what they see in the movies is somehow real, is it any surprise that whites could use their media monopoly to sell the biggest lie in history? And so, black skin would be called tanned. The Egyptians would be reimagined as the same race as the vile Asiatics who they detested. White people would have dreadlocks and kinky hair now. The Nubians would be cast as the authentic blacks. The white writers would try to falsify a contrast between them and the newly minted white Egyptians. The white authors would talk about ancient Egypt, but they used terms meant to remind people of the world of the 19th century. This helped create a false association in the reader's mind between Egypt's mostly winning its wars with Nubia and the European conquest in Africa, as well as slavery in America. All they had to do was leave out 90% of the facts and keep repeating their revised version until it stuck. Here's an example of how they did it. This image is a reproduction that is shown in nearly every white-authored book on Egypt, Tut slaying the Nubians. Whites like to point out that some of the Nubians are jet black. But they always conveniently omit that most of the Nubians are shown as being the same reddish-brown color as Tut and having red hair like Ramses II. And not one of those books will dare show the image on the other side of this funerary box found in Tut's tomb, because it shows Tut riding his chariot over whites who don't look anything like him in form or color. And if this picture of Tut warring with a handful of Nubians who look just like him is proof that the Egyptians hated blacks, then what does it mean when Ramses III rides over an entire ocean of Caucasoids? For whites, it means, no way in hell are we going to print this. This image of a rough-looking black prisoner is another white favorite, because of his full lips and flared nostrils, even though Nefertiti has the same features. And neither one of them looks like this white slave. Here's another picture you'll see in all the white books on Egypt. And here's one you won't. White POWs being tortured. Ramses killing a white man while his wife watches in admiration. No Nubians were ever treated like this. Ramses has 3 captives, but only one of them is black. The other 2 are Asiatic and Semitic. Thutmose III has so many whites by the hair you can't even count them. Pictures of the Egyptians torturing and killing whites far exceed the handful showing the same old pictures of Nubian POWs, yet white writers rarely mention whites as slaves or prisoners. They only say a few sentences about that, and of course they never show the pictures. This is a 200-year-old propaganda war to achieve one sole purpose: deceive the reader into thinking of Egypt and black as 2 separate things. And 2008 was no different. After 30 years of African American scholars proving Egypt was really black, National Geographic put out this feculent propaganda piece. Instead of calling it the Nubian Pharaohs, which at least would have been accurate, they called it the Black Pharaohs, still maintaining the lie that Egypt was white. The caption on this picture says, "Did Queen T have Nubian ancestry? This bust, darkened with age, inspired claims that she did." That's 3 lies for the price of 1. First of all, what proof do they offer that this bust has darkened with age? None. No scientific analysis, no tests of any sort. They simply say it and expect you to buy it. And they don't give us any Egyptian writings or scientific analyses to support this Nubian tea crap either. So who's making these so-called claims then? The editorial board at National Geographic. That's who. They just insert their own unfounded racist opinions into every article and act like that alone is proof. If they're going to say one of Egypt's most celebrated queens was a foreigner, shouldn't they have to back it up with something? What if a black person said, "Was Queen Nefertiti Asiatic? This bust, which has faded with age, has inspired claims that she was." National Geographic would run a front-page story challenging that the sculpture had faded and demanding to know exactly who made those Asiatic claims. Here's another question. If Queen T was Nubian, doesn't that mean her grandson, King Tut, was part Nubian as well, and that this pale reconstruction is a complete fraud? Because the Euro clowns at National Geographic have never said Tut's sculptures have darkened with age. So if Tut's grandmother was black, and National Geographic concedes that his sculptures are accurate to his skin tone, why did they make him look like Casper the Friendly Ghost then? Because it's never been about Egypt. It's about supporting the myth of white supremacy that undergirds European power today. The Euro clowns realize they're losing. Not long ago they said no blacks built Egypt. Now that science has proven them wrong, they're trying to claim the Ethiopians are Caucasians. Because many Ethiopians have narrow noses, whites think they can use that to claim Ethiopians aren't like those other Africans who have bones in their noses and plates in their lips. I guess no one ever told the Europeans that it's the Ethiopians, like the Surma and Mercy tribes, who put plates in their women's lips. So if Ethiopians really are Caucasians, then that means it's whites who don't have any better sense than to put dinnerware in their mouths. Didn't see that one coming, did we? Maybe next time you'll think before you lie. Whites have been taught to worship themselves. Perhaps they should have chosen another god. One who was smarter.
The Union Jack is lowered and the new flag of Jamaica raised.
Everybody is in fear, everybody is in a panic because we have been victimized. We have not known what is going to happen to us. We are suffering.
Yeah man, the wickedest fight Rasta get in Jamaica was through the caravan thing.
What a war to bust a cabinet singing what a war. The water war to bust standing cabinet singing what a war. Buster Manti come blind now. The second one come dead now. And Mr. Shearer can't shear out himself.
Yes, that's calling up on the chanters. Drummers, Iyah Bingy drummers. Step forward, please, make us start. The order, no. Drummers, chanters, we can start the meditation. I hear the power of His Majesty. We can hear and give reverence to Haile Selassie.
I was beaten, sent to prison without a cause.
We will tell God now. It is a very long story.
I confident the power of Haile Selassie Rastafari to deliver I out of the hand of this wicked system in Jamaica.
He apologizing for what did take place on Rasta 1963. But apology can be empty and just a word used. Where is the recompense?
Yeah.
While Jamaica is arguably one of the most beautiful places in the world, it is also beset by a per capita murder rate rivaled only by Colombia and South Africa. Most observers attribute the high rates of murder and violent crime to the various failures of the Jamaican economy and the development of political partisanship during the mid-20th century. As the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labour Party built their constituencies, political gangs developed to intimidate voters and cement political garrisons. Leaders of these gangs maintained close links with politicians, creating a situation that would later become known as political tribalism.
I saw men from Tivoli go to the police vehicle, park before the Tivoli court and throw a bomb inside. The vehicle exploded and caught fire.
To fully understand the story of political violence in Jamaica, we also have to understand how Jamaica's most iconic community, Rastafarians, were demonized and persecuted by the Jamaican government in the early years.
Capture the high and the nobles, don't you know we have a net? Capture the high and the nobles, don't you know we have a net? Capture the high and the nobles in the round.
And for many years, Rastafarians were concentrated in a community called Bacawal. This community was adjacent to Coronation Market, the largest market in Kingston. In 1966, Bacawal was razed by then Minister of Development and Welfare Edward Siaga, who sent bulldozers to destroy the ramshackle dwellings that had been erected, ultimately replacing all the residents with supporters of the ruling Labour Party. Rastafarians were dispersed to other areas of the country where many had already taken up residence in rural outposts and hilltops. Some in Jamaica consider this dispersal to be the single most formative moment in the movement, but it was preceded by a string of persecutions. Principal among these persecutions was the Coral Gardens incident, also known as Bad Friday.
My birth full name is Isaac Wright, born 1935.
Here come the Rasta man.
My name Enid.
Enid what?
Empress Enid Steele.
Yeah, you come out with it. You see what now?
Come over hills and valleys and plains.
My birthplace is Sun Rivers. My post office is Cambridge. I went to Bickerset at school, which I get great knowledge.
But you with loyalty, to Jah.
My name is Fillmore Albaranga. I come to the Rasta movement in 1936 when I saw a photograph with His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie.
Well, you know, in the youthful days coming up, I was moving with a Rasta man, and I hear him speaking of Haile Selassie as the returned Messiah. And it's by 2 millilek then caused the Ark and the Covenant to trod from Jerusalem unto Ethiopia, guided by the Archangel Michael. So we acknowledge those divine consciousness of His Majesty, and we look upon the coronation of His Majesty, 1930, where He coronated as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. And we know that that is the title that the Christ must return according to Revelation 19.
When the movement was founded in the 1930s, going back to Africa was one of the central tenets of the movement. And the reason why they didn't agitate on it at the time, in that first decade, was simply because they had a bigger task, namely to convince people that Haile Selassie was God. Because if you convinced people that Haile Selassie was in fact the Son of God or God Himself, then the whole question of repatriation, of returning to Zion, the seat of His Majesty's power, would follow, I think, logically.
The system was very cruel to anyone who did not conform or did not seem to conform to their thinking. I mean, it happens at school, it happens in the workplace. So you began to see the different types of abuses and I would say extreme fear for the unknown. How dare you question the status quo? And that basically was what Rastafarians were doing.
One time, you know, according to how the government look at it, Rastaman was like, you know, workless and, you know, people never look at them as upful and conscious people. So, you know, police would have just harass you for nothing at all, you know.
In truth and in fact, Rasta was like a species in Jamaica where we have to stay on the edge of society. Like you have to stay both in the hills. You can't venture too much in the city and town. They don't want to see you, you know, because them figure say you bring certain light to the people.
My name is Selborne A. Reed.
I'm an ex-Jamaican policeman, retired detective inspector. I recall even in my own growing up, Rastafarians were not accepted per se as ordinary citizens. Eventually I joined the force, and I recall that in our shooting range, the targets were oftentimes the image of a Rastaman with locks placed there. And in our mind, that was the look of a criminal. And so we would use those images as targets.
If for any reason, if they catch you with little weed and you go to jail and you're a Rasta, the first thing they do is trim you.
My observation of how the security forces treated Rasta, that for me was the biggest deterrent, you know. It wasn't, I could deal with my father like forsaking me because I know he would come around eventually. I could deal with people in the community who think that, well, alright, from you step up to the feet of Rasta, this is the end of it. But you see, the way how the security forces treated Rasta, it was like not a very attractive thing.
The first tribulation on the Rastafari movement in Jamaica was 1950, when a man by the name of Wappy King go on the Palisades Road, which is the Norman Manley Airport Road, and there was a Chinese girl and a Chinese boy on the beach, and him kill the boy and rape off the girl and throw the girl in the sea thinking she go drown, and then him ride off and leave her. When she get rescued, she told the police that it's Rasta because the guy have on him beard, but him didn't have on no hair on him head. He was a rascal under this disguise of Rasta. So when him do him wickedness, him go shave off. So there was a man who saw him coming from that way on a bicycle and know that the guy is that kind of guy and see him trim off him beard. So he report to the police that guy. But the girl said, while him and her, he must be what him doing raping, she crop up him face, which have a whole heap of mark in her fingernail, you know, mark up him face. So everywhere them see a Rasta, them take knife and cut off him head off him face. I search them mark they know to find out. So every man who have on bail was being prosecuted for that.
And one morning, when I push a car, I have a little contract, go to Alpha. Come from Alpha, I see a crowd in Coronation Market. When I look and ask why, them say a Rasta man who sweep in the market. Police beat him up and then carry him gone to hospital, public hospital. So when the policeman then come down there, then catch all the Rasta man then by their nuts, so you know, and hold them, you know, and put on something and bite the stick on them, you know, the button, and catch them drum, and step in at the drum and throw all the drum them in a fire. And we start run, we have to run from them because they have tear gas.
First, you had Prince Edward Emmanuel's convention. That was a long 21 days convention that they had over in Bakawal, and with the expectation, according to some people, that they were to return to Africa at the end of that. The following year came Reverend Claudius Henry's Decision Day, on October 5th, 1958, which was Decision Day, when the world would see the miraculous repatriation to Africa. Well, that created a crisis only for Henry's group, though I'm told that from the reports I received when I was doing that research, that many other people not belonging to his organization, which was called the African Reformed Church, had attached themselves to his movement in the expectation that they would be repatriated. People come from all over the country, apparently. Then came 1960 events, Henry again, when he was found with arms and a letter to Fidel Castro inviting the Castro government to come to Jamaica to take over this country as they depart for Africa. And that was the crisis that was precipitated for the movement, generally speaking.
The Reynold Henry case was disposed of within 6 months. In fact, from the time that Reynold Henry was arrested, was tried in the Supreme Court by a jury in a court that was presided over by the then Chief Justice. The case went to the Court of Appeal and to the Federal Court of Appeal that was part of the old federal structure. All of that took place within the space of 1 year, and the executions actually took place just a year after the event. So that is an indication of the speed and the anxiety that accompanied that case, and it is important to understand that because it is an index of the sense of fear and terror that persons who did not understand the Rastafarian movement, or persons who felt badly about it, felt adverse to the Rastafarian movement, how they reacted to the Carl Gardens trial.
Now today is the first day of independence for the latest new nation of the Commonwealth, Jamaica. Her new status, which was marked at midnight last night by the lowering of the Union Jack in Kingston, the capital, came soon after the dissolution of the West Indian Federation, from which of course Jamaica had already broken away.
Now, Linston Market. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Carry happy go Linston Market, not a quarter what sell. Carry happy go Linston Market, not a quarter what sell. Lord, what a night, not a bite. What a Saturday night. Lord, what a night, not a bite. What a Saturday night.
Holy Thursday, 1963, a news come over the ear. Say, uprising in Montego Bay, Carroll Garden. 6 Rasta, burn down a gas station, kill a man, 3 of the Rasta get shot dead, 2 arrested, 1 at large, 300 in jail.
I wrote about the incident of the Rastafarian uprising as of April 11, 1963. I was one of the police officers in that incident. We received reports from whilst at the station from the area that a gas station was on fire. So I went in the armory and the inspector had ordered that I take out 6 rifles with ammunition. I took the rifles out and they were distributed among the men, including myself. And we loaded a long base Land Rover and went towards Carl Gardens.
We are in Salt Spring, which is very important in the Carl Garden incident. Why is it important? Because the brother who had the problem with the system with Babylon. He used to have his farm just about a mile or two from here, above Salt Spring in Flower Hill next door. With Salt Spring and Flower Hill are like neighbors, you know. Most of the people in Salt Spring, Flower Hill, work on the property at Rosal.
A man will never, no, never.
No, Rudolph went up on the property. And him a burn coal. Him never work with the planters them.
Yeah.
So the coal when I burn now, them claim so the people them where they develop never like the smell. The coal burning. So then tell him to go over yonder.
Yeah.
So then go over yonder and you have a ranger who bump. You know some Jamaican ranger them bumpy.
Yeah.
And then go up there and see man say, Rasta boy, you know say you know fi burn coal for the people them property. So the thing now, they have a place down in the sun here, white gut. Everybody afraid, all know people afraid down there so. You have a road from now a half moon, go right to where me live there now in a Mount Zion, because Mount Zion me live. And there so the police then go down and catch him. Around 3 police nights up here. So they must say want him and want the Rasta fi tap and come in and so him not tap because him not go on a mission. Yeah. So they so now the police and thing and the news go to Rasta police war. So you know hell was loose.
Rudolph Franklin at that time was a very popular youngster among the Rastafarians group in Jamaica, Montego Bay. And not only was he popular among Rastafarians, but he was popular among the underprivileged youngsters in the entire area.
So now we have Rudolph as we father. Because you know most of we call him we father. To how him used to treat us as young youth.
My name is Sheena Franklin. I am the daughter of Rudolph Franklin. He always come, you know. We see people running up and down. You don't know who is here. Rudolph. They wonder to myself because I was so small. They wonder to myself, say, who is this man that everybody have to, you know, run up and down. Rudolph is in the place and things like that.
And one evening we coming from school. We see a guy lie down into a jeep like this, lie on him face with him foot stretched out the back. So everybody tried to wondering, who is the person? So we didn't know who is it until about 8 o'clock in the evening. There's a man come from out where we were living and tell us that Rudolph get shot today. No, that was 1961. Yeah, 1961, October.
I know Rudolph. I don't know his whereabouts, where he live. I don't know nothing about him. I only know that I buy coal, I buy corn, I buy peas, beans, and I buy okra from him. That's what I know. I don't know nothing. I don't know if he was a bad man. I don't know if he was a good man. Until I hear that them shoot him.
Rudolph's father died and leave a lot out of Carl Garden. When he go on the lot now, he start chop it down and burn coal, and they then make them start farm. Till they get the land clear now, then start farm. After they start farm now, Rosal manager, they send workers over there to check what the man them do. But then say a Rosal, then the pan. So after them go there and check you out and carry back the news to the manager. Say then they farm this and then they farm that. Then say alright. Then they set up for good when the project start reap. When they start reap the project now, then carry a battalion of police go there. And when they go the battalion of police go there, then chop down, they reap what they reap, pumpkin, melon, every little thing what they see they reap it. And after they reap it now, then the order to chop it down and then chop it down. Alright, for the first time, the girl say to them, say, man, I'm not a quarters here now. I have my title and thing, me a lawfully here. Then say, man,
you come down too much pan Rosal. So you have to advance up further up.
I grew up in a farming community. I love to see plants grow. And one of the things that I had to do whilst a young cop in Montego Bay was to go out with the bulldozers to bulldoze farm crops on the Cardiards property. These people would have gone on the property, they have no permission, and cultivate their crops. And so they were trespassers. And so the headmen would call the police. Police would arrange to go there and then bulldoze the crops. And there were many times that I stood almost at the point of tears when I saw those beautiful crops, cabbage, corn, cassava, yam, being plowed up.
Then go back there the second time and then do the same thing. And after they reap, what did they know? But I said, no, what is this? See me try clear. Then say, man, you come down too much pan Rosal. So advance up, second time. Then shut down and reap for them to reap and go away. Third time, I'm going to come back now. Rodolph got one machine the plant can. So when the police then go there, and Rodolph got the machine. He said, drop it, Rasta man, drop the cutlass, drop that cutlass. Rodolph said, but imagine. When you come up here with the gun, being it and all different kind of thing, and I Rasta man tell you, say, if you drop it. And I got I cut this the farm, my perform, my little perform. How you come tell me if you drop my cutlass? 3 bullets then give him.
He was working in one of the Cardiards place, a part of the Cardiards property in Carl Gardens area. And of course, he was planting marijuana. Well, the police went there not to raid him for marijuana, but to execute a warrant for him to leave the Cardiards property. And it so happens that the day when the police went there to serve him this summon, seemed to be, he was uncooperative, and there seemed to be some altercation between himself and the policeman who had gone there to serve him the summon. And the police shot him. He was not dead, he was injured, and he was taken to the hospital and stayed maybe about 3 months in the hospital before he was released. After he was released, he was taken before the court, tried, convicted, and sentenced to time served and 3 months in prison. He was a very hurting man, and when he came out of prison, he vowed that he was going to take revenge on those who had caused him to go to prison.
I see him in the hospital, and him get 9 months of prison. And after he come out back, he was with me a little time still, because him crumble for he come sell him look something, you know. So till me yes, they kill Rodolph. Rodolph kill man at Carol Garden. Me no know who on him. Me no know which part name Carol Garden. Right.
Instead of make the man get his medication to keep him, they send him man to prison at 68. When he released from prison, check back his doctor because infection, him feel him belly start to swell. Him declare a policy that I think him find 5 more men with himself and declare a revolution. I blame him not because I done nothing wrong. I was a headman for the property where he didn't do nothing.
Just before the Carol Garden incident, the Sunday evening, I was living in Flankers, and he came and looked for us and didn't told us what he was going to do. On the Thursday, I had a cousin live next door, but he wasn't living up here, he was living down the bottom there. And he run and come to me and say, "Yeah, you know, say your father dead?" He say, "Oh, my father fi dead." He say, "Yeah, man, my father in the Carol Garden incident. Your father in the Carol Garden incident, and me understand, so then kill him."
So we formed 2 parties of men, about 15 men each, in a Y formation, and we decided to go in search of these men. By then, a lot of civilians who have heard about the incident had joined the police party, and we were going in search of the men who had done these heinous crimes. We saw about 5 or 6 Rastafarian men coming towards us, and they paused for a little while after they saw the police vehicle. Then we got out of the vehicle, and one of the men in my party took up his rifle, aimed at the men. He pulled the trigger went up, but the gun did not go off because of course there was no ammunition in the gun. So when the Rasta men observed that the gun did not go off, they more or less thought that the guns were either defective or they were not loaded. So they spurred on, they began to shoot arrows, and then they attacked the police. The police was defenseless, and the citizens who thought that they had to do something because in their opinion the police was not in charge of the situation. So they formed themselves in vigilante groups. And the fact that they heard that Rasta men were involved, they decided to search out for every Rasta man. In fact, whether you are black, white, yellow or blue, professor or just anybody, even if you wear a status, if you wear a beard as a little status symbol, you'd be regarded as a Rasta man, you would be beaten and taken to the police station and locked up.
Babylon, your throne gone down, gone down. Babylon, your throne gone down. I hear the voice of the Rasta man say, Babylon, your throne gone down, gone down. Babylon, your throne gone down.
I'm Robin Small, otherwise known as Jerry Small or Bongo Jerry. My old man, Ronald Small, he tried the murder case resulting from the Carl Gardens confrontation in 1963. The Bustamante administration in the earlier 50s, they had moved against Pinnacle and Leonard Hoyle. The PNP in their time moved against Henry and others. And now after independence, now the JLP again now move against the Rastafari community island-wide on the pretext of the Carl Gardens incident.
Babylon then come out, but you see majority of the people and the people who want enough of people in Babylon who really come. Because it's a stigma with the said government here. This was the said JLP government was in power during them time with I see them spread a stigma about Rasta, like Rasta is a black heart man, them all catch people and kill them and all them things. So that is why them spread these stigma. So you see when the thing start a mobile with them say, it does spread like wildfire through a lot of Rasta in this region, you know. That was a region.
So that was days of time, no man. This place is pure food. Pure food, hungry the lick man crossing good kind of car in those days, you no one no give no work to do. First the Rastafari, Iyah, Selassie, no one no respond to you, can't get nothing to eat, no drink. You have to get in yourself, because if you don't in yourself, you live in jail. You have to walk on the living shark line. And take food from here, one exciting, take our food off our property, carry go and touch on feed the other one by night.
Labour Party was in power and they was very hostile to Rastaman.
It really was the Bustamante government's first clash really with the Rastafari.
I heard that under Bustamante government, them time the Rasta just come in and Rasta was treated brutality underneath that government, because from his Rasta him said you must go to prison or you die, because then catch all Rasta from have little ear and thing, him say must shoot first and inquire after.
And Mr. Bustamante he say carrying all Rasta man dead or alive. He say who can hold a 14
we hold on the shimmy tree.
When him say the jail can't hold them, throw them from Bogill.
Yeah.
Bogill is a cemetery in Mobile. That means to kill them. Huh? So we never like them sound there.
Did you know? So did you know how the elders suffered because they called on Rastafari? So did you know how the elders suffered to bring this liberty to I and I? So did you know how the elders suffered because they called on Rastafari? So did you know how the elders suffered to bring this liberty to I and I?
Star newspaper came out and said, bringing all Rastas dead or alive. And that was a very frightening experience for me in 1963. And when I read the news article carefully, I realized that one of my school friends was the one that got shot. That night I went down to visit my girlfriend, and after I left I was walking along Dome Street and a whole lorry full of soldiers just swarmed down on me and started asking questions. I got so frightened I said, please take me to the nearest police station. And it was at the police station now that the whole revelation of what the incident took place, because I met at the police station my schoolmate from primary school that used to live right here, and he was a policeman. And he's the one that began to tell me the whole incident. He said on the night of the incident, he was on patrol, and when he saw the young Rastas somewhere down in the bushes there, he got frightened, and he went against instructions and took out a cartridge and put it in the gun and into the gun against the instructions of the inspector, and fired and shot my schoolmate.
I am a brethren, so we're gonna have a little smoke. We go for that, we go catch a fresh now, we go collect with little money. All we hear, police, come down. Rasta, who no kill good police. And from that, they take us, beat us up, put us into a jeep. We are in there for 31 days before I was sent to General Penitentiary, which was even a wrong prisoner sent me. Because for first offender, I used to go to the farm instead of the general. I was tried half naked because they beat my shirt off. So that's the way I try. Mr. Pilot say unto me, Mr. Brissett, I can do better. I have to send to prison. I say, Mr. Pilot, you say, I see you. Did you say I do something? So you see, when my day come, I'm gonna dribble your cup. And I mean it even now and forever.
What is your name?
Oh, Noel Bennett.
And you're born?
Born in Jamaica, in Cardwell, April 43.
My name is Winston Ferguson. I was born in Barnet Lane, in 10 Barnet Lane, 1942, 5th of October.
My name is Alan Bennett.
And when were you born?
1935.
My name, Oscar None to the Flesh, Frank Garden.
My name is Justin Reed. I was born in South Spring, 1923.
My name is Enos Aldine. I born 1934.
I was born in Westmoreland, 1920. My name, Ivan Sama.
My name is Caswell Shakespeare. I was born January 20, 1937.
Prince Albert Williams.
And when were you born?
1946, 47,
Thomas Lyon, my name was.
Thomas Lyon.
Yes.
Alright. And what, you don't know which year you're born?
No man. They are like it.
I was born 1932, the 15th day of March, at Montego Bay, Strand Street, 10 Strand Street.
Well, in my experience of Coral Garden, personally, I was in the hills, in our St. James Hill here, burning coal for 6 weeks, cutting down coal wood to burn fire coal, that we can get it to cook into the stove. And when I come out of the hills now, draw the coal the Friday, the Good Friday, and come out and distribute a bag of the coal to a vendor and go around to my brethren to ask him what's going along and tell me, say, well, police is in the area. So I leave now from the brethren and come up to my gates, still in Granville. These things that I'm telling you happen. And when I come up my gate now, I did have a sister that I and I rest together as my empress. And then I trod now to a higher hills called Charman, where I farm, do my little farming and so on. And was in Charman Mountain for around 4 days until I leave there and trod to St. Elizabeth and the daughter. Call here to the part of St. Elizabeth where I trod, called Cedar Spring, is around 28 miles from Montego Bay. And we trod all night. And when we reached there, they clean out. So when we were there with our brethren now, called Bongo Levi, and tell him what happened, the people them now, when I was going up the hill, try to stop I from enter the area of the brethren house then. So we mustn't go up there. So I asked them why. Them said because Rasta kill police a Montego Bay.
Cause Ganja come down pan and I. And then come take her and I now. Murder and I. Do many things with and I. And send me back in prison.
And they grab me. And they put a rope right round me, you know, make sure that they rope me good on foot, head. And they tell me like banana.
Come up to me yard and when I handcuff we and handcuff we. One of the policemen say, man, you could have had a great mind and burn down the building. Me say, man, how you they say to me? Me say, man, you don't build up it fast and how you build it down. Build up it. That one of them got one long gun. See that way? You can't see it. Look on it, man. You know, one long gun in this way, the one go, ram! On the two head move. One of the sisters then did and scream out. He says, you scream out. Not me, I said, no, wait till them go down, sir. I said, don't go drill.
While I was in Wakesfield, touchdown Trelawney, on the 12th of April 1963, where Buster Manti and Harley Regine come down to say, kill Rastafari. And them take I from Wakesfield, in fact them cruel to I from Wakesfield to Montego Bay. When I go to Montego Bay, I have to kneel down for my knee at 14 and put me on for my head and shut up my eye. It's don't go high self, no lick high self. To every man have a privilege, if you dig out your eye, there's nothing unto the government.
In night time, you know, they usually beat Rastas and shoot them and all them things and lock them up, and some get prison and some get jail and pay some cash and find them, and some go to prison.
The government said they carrying all Rasta dead or alive. Either their head, cut out their head or carry them in, or kill them and carry them in, no charge. Let them take away 3 year imprisonment.
They carry me to the Montego Bay jail right in the center of the town. They beat us, then do everything to us. When we ask for water, they push us out in the broiling sun. And they wait until when the sun hot. When you look at the concrete, man, you see the heat coming out of it. And they take up the hose, they have the water hose personal.
and they touch it on from the hydrant. And they spray us in the water, in the middle of the sun.
The night was come down and them trying to them a search me, because they don't want me. Then me call out. And the bad dog them, all kind of dog them come up and ready to heat up my structure. But seeing as I was a humble youth at them time there, they couldn't heat I up. Because I don't war them. They stand up on you what them have to say. Then carry me go to jail. Beat me very properly, beaten from the generation. And then carry me go to jail. And then lock I down. And then lock I down now, I believe then give I bail. And sentence me for 30 days in prison. The first sentence that.
I don't see the half of Caragana incident because I was at North Gully and I couldn't go round and round to see the half. I couldn't walk out because it was danger. Which I tell you from the beginning that I was pregnant, okay? Well, the Wednesday when I got up, I hear some people like over the other yard, they talk, Rasta kill man, Rasta kill man, Rasta kill man.
Them start to fling buckle, fling stone at our head, and I slip them then. And some they jam I with stick. But the one that I was watching keenly is the big strong black guy that have a big rope. Call it around a 3 inches rope. Feel like you know cast a cow. So every time in the wheel rope now for cast I know. I burn lightning and thunder and earthquake and I seen fear. So I start burn the said words them, lightning and thunder, and struck him out and go up on the hill quicker than him.
That stone we killed me there. Yeah, and they kick out my door. Yeah. And they turn up my face, turn down my face and turn me back. And they got me back a beat with the riot button and gun boat. So all my ribs them broke. 2 of them broke. They give me some lick, all in my head. Man, me some fool man, piss up myself. But me I tell you bingy.
And when I look, I see man no from a leaf with stick, stone, machete to heavy weapon them have. The arm and barrack broke up boy them that the soldier them. A blue suit them have on with helmet. Gun, one of them take the gun and lick I right at the head. Right here so I lick I drop clear like down. And the time I drop about 7 of them a pure kick. Raise I up back. I bleed from this side right onto the hurt.
You should check on morning. Then take you up one by one. And button the buck up and button the buck up and button. When them done 3 morning straight, then give you that they feeding there. Beaten. And every one of them what beat you. Have to chop up hand. For hours when they lick and piece of flesh, but 2 up for them they lick and lick, but now button buck up on one another. And flick back to them pull muscle and all that shit them. You have to chop up their hand.
But while we was there now in the night, police come in the morning, early in the before day around 2 o'clock. They charge the brethren for common assault. And they charge I know for the brethren gas lamp that they took away from the brethren. And the brethren have a big cook fork that him for always frying dumpling with and sell it when he was in Kingston. And them take a big tape from him and charge me for those things. Unlawful position. Well, we spent 7 days in Black River Police Station, and on the 8th day now, them transfer us to Balaclava Police Station and carry us to Balaclava Courthouse.
I was working at Iyah and I hear that they're coming on with the Rasta, and I sit down there and after what I see,
some police and soldier and pavilion, they come through the cane piece was out there, right there. And the whole of them come through and them take me first. After they take the other brethren. And go to our next spot over that side and take our next one. We go Falmouth. For that jail couldn't hold me. And then carry go to Falmouth. And I stay at Falmouth Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, court. We got court.
What did they charge you with?
Breach of the public law.
The Thursday morning, around 4 o'clock, I hear a rolling, coming very fast. And when it come up, I hear it stop, how it gate like here, so. And hear boop, 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 boop. I board house. I mean, like, we have a little keyhole, and when I trip out, so, I see soldiers like sand grain. I go back, I say, Marcin, police and soldier out there, you know. Well, I have a little brother who lived before me. I realize, then lick down the door, and then go in and then start murder him and then drag him out.
Murder, Mr. Murder. The guy murder me, man. All the woman in with piece of chicken and all them kind of way that. And then they show down for me, I said, them beat me if you kill me. Stone, iron, everything they find. Yes.
What I do now if it's here, Marcin now, I take off the mattress off of the bed, and I put it in the corner, and then go in the mattress, and I tie the mattress down here so, and I tie it up here so. And I hold the head, the breeze can go in now. That's how I get to saving from brutality with the big belly. Taking the Friday night, have the baby the Saturday night. Death road. But I say I not go in a hospital because if it has judgment, I not go. I stay there till Almighty Jah help me and then take out the baby for me. See? I bleed till me white like piece of white cloth. Then I have no blood in me. And at 7 days the baby live. 3 spoonful of tea, no breast until they die.
The Friday, it was more wickedly. The hard man, the hard Rasta man through that gully. And so then they hard them, they kick them, they turn up them jump and Rasta man.
The memory of the struggle that Rastafari have gone through, supposed to stick with I and I. In the 60s, we never have so much car, we never have so much money amongst Rasta. But guess what? There was a love and there was a unity. We need to cooperate our divine energy together and to unite round the divine consciousness of Iyah Selassie and to love one another supremely.
We have a responsibility, and we have to make sure that this government is answerable to what happened to Rasta in 1963. And we say this without any apology.
Before the Skull Garden thing in 1963, you used to hear frequently of people getting 7 days or 30 days or a few months for smoking, possession and even trading in ganja. But they changed the law after this trial to a mandatory sentence of 18 months for possession, first offense. And it was used as a blanket law to pull in people, Rastafarians especially, who are giving the government trouble, perceived trouble, political and otherwise.
Even if you were in possession of a few grains of ganja or even ganja seeds, but not actually the leaves of the ganja, you could be charged for a criminal offense. And it didn't only affect the poor people and the working class people, it affected everybody in the society. It not only meant that here was an oppressive tool in the hands of the police, but it also was a tool that led to the corruption of the police force. And the long-term effects of that, I think, are still being felt in the Jamaican society today.
I think the idea came from the parliamentary debate which took place when the PNP government was in power. I think it was 2007. There was a debate initiated by Mike Henry, who has always personally been very vocal as an advocate for reparations. And he proposed a motion in the House of Representatives, and everyone who spoke was very strongly in favor of the concept and the principle that a reparations claim should be made for the damages caused by the atrocities of the slave trade and the slavery institution.
My role in spearheading the parliamentary debate rests in the essence of one, and I think it is the truth, that we have never had a political decision on reparations. It is my firm belief, and I stand ready as my independent person to take it to the International Court of Justice. But I think it would stand more support in that area if it has a political decision by an elected Parliament of Jamaica. And it would allow all the politicians hiding behind merely platform speeches and still cowering to the British government to not recognize that all we are demanding is that what you paid to the slave owners, you must pay to the slaves.
I think the way you're supposed to get it is, reparation with repatriation. And we're not talking about for slavery. We're talking about this government around here now, a them response, because I see them Labour government and them present now in our parliament. I think them are the ones to address this thing.
That means influencing the political system. That now would have to be left to the real believers in Rastafari, because they've looked on politics as politricks. Now therefore I maintain, and this is a totally Mike Henry position, I believe that that voice comes through religion. I believe that once we recognize Rastafari as a religion, we recognize marijuana as a sacrament of the Rastafari faith, just like the wine that is used in the ceremonies of the Roman Catholic Church or any other form. Then you place Rastafari in the social context of Jamaica.
One of the greatest injustices that has been with us since slavery was abolished is lack of land. 90% of Jamaicans are squatters. That's what we're called, squatters, and can be evicted from any piece of land at any time without notice. It takes away your total dignity. And so if nothing else is given, I think the black people in Jamaica should be given lands. Legal tenure to lands. I think land makes you, being a landowner, gives you honor.
Testimonies we heard tonight were specific to the Coral Gardens incident. But elders like Ma Ashanti, I see here tonight, and so many others could testify of the many humiliations and the many acts of discrimination that they suffered on account of this movement. But yet, by holding fast to their faith, by holding fast to their principles, they were able to prove that they are neither mad nor bad. Then if you're not mad and you're not bad, you must be good. You must be holy. You must be sacred. And that is what the Rastafari movement has come through and survived in order to reach where it is now, where you can find yourself an international movement, a movement embraced by all races and classes of people.
Every year, Rastas commemorate the 1963 incident through drumming and personal testimony, testimonies like those you have heard here. But the annual commemoration is about more than what happened in 1963. It is also a celebration of how much Rastafari has thrived despite this history of persecution. And it is a window onto how the whole country holds legacies of Western imperialism, racial slavery, and political nationalism. These are the historical foundations of contemporary violence in Jamaica and throughout the Americas. And this is what we must now all fight to overcome.
Now today, we have the African Union, and there are dialogue. There's a dialogue between I and I within the diaspora and the African Union. It's for the government now, Andrea, to take up this issue into the international forum to make sure that I and I is not only compensated, but is repatriated to the land of I and I ancestors.
Bongo Isaac, what do you want to see, my brother?
Yes, my sister. Greeting. Yes. You know what I first would love to see? Which is positive, that positive vibration of togetherness of I and I, the Rastafari family.
Yes, my father.
Seeing?
Yes.
Yes, to unite and organize ourselves properly together and centralize the movement.
One voice.
To know how much Rastafari brethren and sistren and children is in this land of Jamaica. So if I and I seeking repatriation, and we must repatriate when the time comes, we would have to have the total number to give it to those people the president and of such certain state in Africa, so that they want to know the totality of how much Rasta is in the island.
Not you got a job to do.
Yes, so the work is to be done.
I hear from Bongo Frank, who said repatriation before reparation, because repatriation is high on your agenda, my father.
Yes.
Brother Bongo Frank.
Blessed love, Empress. Yes. Right now, my ways and my doctrine of Rastafari, when I take up this faith, I was only 22, 1962. I lived to Montego Bay at that time. Repatriation I speak of.
All right.
I don't speak of repatriation.
Repatriation.
Repatriation. Many men down here who don't know about Rastafari business want money to go and splurge, to buy BMW.
But reparations for repatriation. You understand? Because we're going to need that to move to.
Yes, right. Repatriation first.
Yes,
then repatriation.
I hear you. Bongo Brissett, what do you want to see, my brother?
Well, what I want to see now is the people of Jamaica, especially we Rasta, set ourselves on the stage which we are to be. Jah give us power, strength now that we must dominate, but we have to be in love, unity, and harmony.
What do you want to see, my brother Bongo Joe?
Yes, love, one love. As my Asian virgin state before, to be truthful, that unity, which they call unity, that get-togetherness, as Thy Majesty speaks, centralize ourselves together, regardless of the different organs. Because when I say Rasta as a youth, it's one Rasta I know. Saying, until we can come together and black people are not all, because we accept black people as Rasta, and centralize and organize ourselves and put away the pettiness and prejudicistic approach amongst us. Saying, and when we unite throughout Africa and amongst black people and speak of one voice, like our Asian brother Marcus Garvey has trying best to get together. And then now when we get ourselves together now, then we can start talk to various governments and organs and United Nations and whosoever. Speak of our rights. There is a must. And we're not begging nothing.
Nothing got a job to do. My brother Iyah Tafari. What you want to see, my brother?
Yes, Rastafari live, you know. Well, me da like see the aspirations of the movement come to fruition, you know, come to fulfillment. And that means we are the implore those with the wise mind, the administrative process that going to take us into fulfilling the aspiration of repatriation and the unity. Me da like see them minds they come together and work and that in a more positive and focused way, you know, because sometimes we take it as a talk shop still and it not manifest the process of getting from A to B, or we skip over it and go on to new things instead of keeping the tradition straight, you know. So me da like see the administrative process we make the aspirations them come into fullness, be more focused on, you know.
50 years since Coral Gardens, and we're using Coral Gardens as a high point, you know, because it was a point of Rasta persecution, and that is why we say 50 years since Coral Gardens. Jamaica is also celebrating 50 years, as our brother Sizzla Kalonji says, 50 years of independent slavery. But it is what it is, you know, and there's a 50-year thing going on here, and 50 years since the brutalization of Rastafarians. We're going to hear much more about it throughout the month, because we're sitting down on this for the entire month of March in this space until we move into Coral Gardens, until we move into Montego Bay.
Yes.
Until we move to Pitford Nyabingi Center on Friday the 29th.
Sir, I solemnly swear
I solemnly swear that the evidence I shall give, that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, shall be the truth, the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God, so help Iyah. So help me God, so help Iyah. So help me God, so help Iyah, Rastafari. Every time I see the wicked, my belly moves, moves, moves. You are brought before this court for having ganja in your possession. Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty, Your Honor. How could one man do such a thing? Ganja. It is totally impossible, Your Honor. I can remember, yeah, when I was framed and jailed, brutalized. The grudge would find me guilty for an exhibit they could not find. And every time I see a Babylon, my blood runs cold. I mean cold. And every time I see the wicked man, my belly moves. When I see the condition,
it is now 53 years since the massacre at Coral Gardens. And the public defender has investigated, completed the investigation, which started with public defender Howard Hamilton way back in the day. And questions have been raised regarding the report, but it is a report that is now has been sent to Parliament to be debated in Parliament. The next step is that, and it might be locked up and locked away, or it might be debated, but it depends, I think, on the agitation and the activism and the continued support by and of and for the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society and Rastafari in Jamaica. Repatriation was not dealt with in the report. I want, when we come back from the break, to listen to the new Canadian Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, talking about injustice meted out to the First Nation in Canada, indigenous communities in Canada called First Nations, how he dealt with it. And I want to play this when we come back from the break, especially for the Prime Minister of Jamaica and for Mr. Franklin Johnston, the chief advisor, one of the chief advisors to the Minister of Education. This is how statesmen operate. This is how leaders operate. This is how individuals who do not have to say they care, but show that they care, operate. When we come back from the break, I'm going to talk about this. This is how the young Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, laying out his plan to reset Canada's relationship with its indigenous people. He was addressing a group of First Nation leaders. He cried, he teared up, he wiped his eyes publicly, and he spoke from his heart about what Canada, what the state had to do and how they're going to do it. And the inaction of successive governments, prime ministers, regarding the persecution of Rastafari in Jamaica tells us that there is a bunch of hypocrites and users. And I challenge African people especially Rastafari in Jamaica, to say no to the state when they call you to beat the drums, because that's what they want you to do, to beat the drums. To stand up and say no when they ask you to parade at their ceremonies. To say we will not be used until you have recognized the persecution of the group. Professor Ivan Van Sertima says, whether something happened 10,000 years ago, 10 years ago, 10 minutes ago, or 10 seconds ago, it occupies the same space and time in your consciousness once you become aware of it. And so the passage of time, which the public defender spoke to legally, is one thing, but the passage of time psychologically and spiritually, it's time and space. And time and space really does do bend on itself and themselves, and so there is really no that transition period that you would think between a year and the next year. It really is just space, and it folds on itself. It is a cycle. So the memory and remembering is always now. It doesn't matter if it happened 51 years ago, 52 years ago. It is now. You experience the very same pain. And so the elder broke down in tears as he remembered and recalled the atrocities, the brutality of a state against Rastafari and against his person. In 1963, the public defender's report is out. Bongo Frank in that statement said that he didn't want money. He wanted repatriation, and I suppose repatriation facilitated, which means deal with it. Repatriation, of course, was not dealt with in the report, but this report is going to be debated in Parliament. In terms of a compensation, the public defender says that this was the 10 million, which we really do think is a paltry sum. The 10 million is not set in stone. She said in her report that this was due a contingent upon review, which means that the figure is not static. It can change. So that caveat was put in the report for the survivors. Then there's also the apology that the public defender called for in the report, that the state must apologize. My God, do you need a public defender to tell you to apologize? And then you have the audacity to challenge and to ask for an apology from David Cameron. No. Let us clean our house first. Right here. Let us take it out, put it outside, open it wide, and clean it out. Let us do that. Bongo Frank is on the phone lines. Greetings. Oh, Bongo Frank, my brother. How you doing, man?
I'm fine for the morning. I'm giving thanks and praise to the Most High.
Yes, I know you're not in the island. And
no, I'm in New York now.
Yes, but I know that you heard about the report, the investigations by the public defender into the Coral Gardens massacre. I remember, Bongo Frank, that when I spoke to you in 2013 and asked you what would you want to see done, you said repatriation is what you would want to see. Repatriation was not mentioned in the report, but what do you think about the fact that now the public defender has finally completed the investigations and a report has been submitted to Parliament?
Well, my feelings, my Empress, is for I and I to take this thing to a higher level.
Yes.
It could not just mean this. So it could not just mean so. For we have to recollect and know that these people that who suffer such a pain and such a atrocity, and right now we are in a few numbers that leave out of that community. You know, we want to get this thing in order that each and every one be justified. And it cannot be no injustice. And the numbers that I hear that calling, it is not upright for me. Yes, we have to take this thing to a higher level. Since they acknowledge that they have done us wrong and they want to repair the damage that they have done. So we want to know. I want to know. I cannot talk for no one else besides myself.
Yes.
But I want to know that if these brethren will submit to what I'm saying, and let me take this thing to an higher level.
To a higher level. And when you say a higher level, what do you mean?
What do we mean? We want to know that it go to the International Court of Geneva. You understand me?
Yes.
We want to have these people come together and reform a body and send our plight to the International Court, Human Rights Court in Geneva.
And
the standard of count that I hear calling about, right? It's in the green all over here.
Yes.
And the standard account that I hear that calling for, what about the people that were in mass grave? What about the people that go to prison and don't come back? What about the man that go to prison and come back and died on his bed because of all these pains? What about the ladies that get kicked and lose their babies and the children that born without a father? We have to take this thing serious. It's not so. And if it's not like how I want it, I will leave my part unto my Father, and he will rain brimstone, lightning, and thunder upon the head of the Babylon.
Because that is one of the questions that have been asked in terms of the amount, because we know it was a massacre. We know that the numbers that died, and what you saw, what you yourself witnessed, and you asked the question: what about those who were buried in mass graves? What about those who went to prison and did not return? You know, what about those who died later on, who came out of prison and died later on as a result of injuries? So numbers in terms of counting, and we are seeing a figure of eight dead, and the news reports and the newscasts and the newspapers and the electronic media, they're all reporting 8 died. And so the question has come up, what really happened at Coral Gardens? So you're saying that even at that level, you're not seeing justice?
No, I'm not seeing no justice there to the count that I hear.
Yes.
To that count that I hear, that called the bills not drawn up from the public offender, I don't see no justice within that one. That cannot buy toilet paper for the people to clean up their waste.
A lot of the survivors have passed on. Their families remain. And also,
yes, of course.
Yes. And some like Mama Enid, and we send our love again to Mama Enid. Junior Negus, please let us know how Mama Enid is doing, because we know she's in the hospital. We know she's really, pretty ill. And once again, we reach out to the community, especially Rastafari sisters, and request that you reach out to Mama Enid urgently. All right. So Bongo Frank, let us look now at your call for repatriation. I said repatriation is not in the report, but this bill is to be debated, this report is to be debated in Parliament. Would you like to see that added as part of the debate?
Of course. For repatriation means all types of things. Not only for compensation, but to repair the damage that you have done. Our thoughts was damaged, our culture was damaged, and we were restricted to call upon the name of our Father. So we want to know now that these don't pay me and keep me. Send me back to where I come from and where. And my work is finished now with you. So you send me, you cannot pay me and keep me. If I want to take back, what to pay me?
So repatriation.
I'm thinking about the continent.
Yes.
So repatriation is upon the charter. But I want to know that I who ready to go home, who don't want to come, they are free to come. For I did say, whosoever don't want to come, they are willing to stay. But woman breasts are dropped off like ripe sour sap, and man balls are dropped out like ripe mango. So I have these words within I now, and I'm ready to go. But I am not going with an empty-handed.
Yes.
And my form of reparation, it stands for everything. To repair the damage that you have done. It's not only for me and myself alone. It's for even back a wall with Bobo Eddie in those times. So you cannot, for most of them did say, Empress, all coolie is coolie and all Rasta is Rasta. So if it comes out that Rasta should give compensation, we should all be in one line to being compensated and to repatriate to our home and I.
All right. Bongo Frank, we're going to leave it there. We know that you're coming forward soon. And once you've come in, we want to invite you in the studio and we go through this in more details. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, my brother. And it's very, very good to hear from you this morning.
Listen, Empress, Royal Empress, I thank you for reminding me of this call.
Yes, all right. Give thanks. Give thanks.
I bless you and hail up Jamaica for me.
Will do, and hail up your family.
Blessed love.
All right.
Pledge allegiance to the lion, the one who reigned from Mount Zion. Pledge allegiance to the lion, the one who reigned from Mount Zion. 'Cause the lion of Judah reigneth over land and sea, reigneth for eternity, reigneth over land and sea, reigneth for eternity. 'Cause the lion of what we are chanting about. Hela, hela, chant and shout. Let them know what we are all about. 'Cause the lion of Judah reigns. He pledged allegiance to the lion, one who reigned from Mount Zion. Pledge allegiance to the lion, one who reigned from Mount Zion. 'Cause the lion of Judah reigns. Hail him over land and sea. Lagos are you keep fighting Ethiopia free. Hailing for eternity. Niggas are you keep Ethiopia free. 'Cause the lion of Judah reigns.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has laid out his plan to reset Canada's relationship with its indigenous people, and he did this during an address to a group of indigenous First Nation leaders in Quebec. He said that it was time for a renewed nation-to-nation relationship with First Nation. He's a new Prime Minister. He said that his government was going to move immediately to address the situation. We want to carry that clip from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And I want to play this especially for the Prime Minister. I want Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller to look at the example of young Trudeau. And I want Minister Ronald Thwaites to listen to Justin Trudeau in Canada. And I want Mr. Franklin Johnson to listen to what Justin Trudeau has said about the treatment of Canada's indigenous community, indigenous people. It is a lesson in statesmanship. It is a lesson in caring. It is a lesson in leadership. Let's go to that clip.
One that understands that the constitutionally guaranteed rights of First Nations in Canada are not an inconvenience, but a sacred obligation. One that is based on recognition of rights, respect, cooperation, and partnership. One that is guided by the spirit and intent of the original treaty relationship. One that respects inherent rights, treaties, and jurisdictions, and one that respects the decisions of our courts. I know that renewing our relationship is an ambitious goal, but I am equally certain that it is one that we can and will achieve if we work together. This is a responsibility, and I have instructed my entire government to do the same. In the mandate letters given to my government ministers, my expectations were clear. I told them that no relationship is more important to me and to Canada than the one with First Nations, Métis Nation, and Inuit peoples. Among Carolyn's top priorities will be the creation of a national public inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. We have made this inquiry a priority for our government because those touched by this national tragedy have waited long enough. The victims deserve justice, their families an opportunity to heal and to be heard. We must work together to put an end to this ongoing tragedy. A second priority will be to make significant investments in First Nations education. This is one funding area where we know we can't afford to wait, and we won't. Every child and young person living in Canada deserves a real and fair chance at success. First Nations students are no less deserving. At the same time, we will never impose solutions from the top down. We know that this approach is wrong, and we know it doesn't work. While we share a commitment to improving education outcomes, we believe that education reforms that affect First Nations children must be led by First Nations. Third, as National Chief Bellegarde alluded to, our government will immediately, as part of our first budget, lift the 2% cap on funding for First Nations programs. As you know, that limit has been in place for nearly 20 years. It hasn't kept up with the demographic realities of your communities, nor the actual costs of program delivery. It's time for a new fiscal relationship with First Nations that gives your communities sufficient, predictable, and sustained funding. This is a promise we made and a promise we will keep. Fourth, in partnership with Indigenous communities, the provinces, territories, and other vital partners, We will fully implement the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, starting with the implementation of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And fifth, we will conduct a full review of the legislation unilaterally imposed on Indigenous peoples by the previous government. Where measures are found to be in conflict with your rights, where they are inconsistent with the principles of good governance, or where they simply make no public policy sense, we will rescind them. And I know just the Minister of Justice to keep an eye on that.
Madam Prime Minister, is leadership. That is leadership. Mr. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, new Prime Minister, he says education reform that affects First Nations children must be led by First Nations. I heard the Reverend Catholic Reverend Ronnie Thwaites speaking in a radio interview, saying to the hosts, as a white Jamaican, I am going to read again, Mr. Justin Trudeau, on education of the Indigenous people of Canada, says education reform that affects First Nations children must be led by First Nations. I don't have to spell it out, I don't have to go any further in saying what in explaining what I'm saying here. Mr. Trudeau, as a leader, launching a national public inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women. Bonga Frank saying to us just now, what happened to those who were buried in mass graves? What happened to those who went to prison and did not return? What happened to those who died later from injuries they received as a result of Coral Gardens? Coral Gardens is a scar on the conscience of Jamaica, and there is no leadership in this matter. We want to see the public defender's report debated in Parliament. We want the other claims that were made by the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society to be debated as part of this. If justice is to be done, if justice is to be seen to be done, it must be done swiftly. You know, a brother on Twitter just reminded me, and I think it was UK Boy, that the Prime Minister, speaking about a cricketer, said justice delayed is justice denied about a sportsman. And justice for Rastafari in Jamaica and the Rastafari community in Jamaica has been delayed for a very long time, long before 1963. But let's go back to 63, because Coral Gardens is what we're talking about.
By the rivers
many of those who survived Coral Gardens have passed on. Our brother Iyah is one such person.
And some people going to spring for water. And I hear from a woman now that I know that telling some boys say, war bust out with Rasta and police at Coral Garden. And some Rasta get shot and some police get shot. And them say they want all Rasta dead or alive because Rasta kill police. So when I hear now, see that I and two other brethren was at the time home. I tell my brethren, say, but I have to make a step in the town to find out that this thing is really true. So I walk foot on the street, and when I touch a part of the way, and I see a police now wearing a special constable inspector, and he stop and say to I and the other two brethren, he say, Rasta, don't go in town because there's a war with police and Rasta in town, and if you go in there, you might get involved. So I said to him, I'm not going to war. I just hear a news about the war. I want to see someone that I confident to tell I if something really go like that for true. If I man battlefield and war, I used to stop war instead of make it. So him say, all right, I was in disobey. So after I step put speedily and reach out at the power station near to reach it to the town. And I seen drive up again with a man in war suit and say, Rasta man, I tell you not to go in town. And tell me that I'm not going to fight and I'm just going to hear what really happened. So and I turn on the line and then go to the lane. The most I virgin them till them say we bring in dead or alive, every Rasta. And Buster Mantino was the Prime Minister and him say, bring in dead or alive, every Rasta. He will dig trenches at work to bury Rasta. And Norman Maldino, him was the opposition that give his statement, say, him agree that anyone found in the war must pay the penalty and them is guilty. But all innocent ones, them must be free. So after that was given now, and I go down the lane and hear the truth and return in our hills by evening. So early the Friday morning now, and I fixing up and I breakfast as they would call it. Just hear a noise coming from out of the district. And when I look now, there's a whole host of young man with rope come down. Say Buster said them will rope in, the Rasta and pull them come in, dead or alive. Them jump over the wall and grab the two brethren them now. See that them was from Westman and I know. And so they don't come find out with the gold on the first. And after them draw them like when you do the draw some wild goat, or I is with them and then tell the night that I must turn back because if I keep following them, then go and tire it too. I say, well, see that no tie them and they innocent. If I tire, I is three innocent. So they say, if you don't turn back, me don't tie you. So I give them a hand and I say, tire and I the innocent together. And I don't guilty of more charge. Before they tire, they start to lick the birds in them. Some with stick, some with kick, box, fist, all different type of action. Brutality. So, then John and I through the district now. And we're down Long Hill. And when they get down to the main now, we're at Dr. Stevenson. Doctor them hear the uproar and come out at the veranda upstairs and watching what's happening. The leader beat at them now said, come doctor, come watch how we beat Rasta. Then one of them take up them piece and gas what next hype near high gel and in eye nose and blood gas through nose and then lick the other eye and next one now stay behind the backside and have an eye pulling. Some they pull up front, some they pull back, some they back, some they can up, some they pull
with rope, down long hill, and then go and tell me they almost to the last corner to end the hill. And I see a police coming into a big truck. The police stop the truck and tell them, say, pull them in the truck. So some of them jump in the truck and hold the rope and pull in there like how you pulling some boat. The truck drive in and come in the jail. So when you get out of jail now, it's the yard full with the army, all type of forces, the prime minister, the commissioner, the brigadier. Yes, boss, I was there between two guns inside and said, no, dead or alive, we want all Rasta. So at the same time now, a surgeon that didn't know I, that he talk and move socially, said, tell them that he know all these three, and then he don't know about, and I give you no problem, not molest anyone. So he said, all right, I will take them in control. See that time the barber no put no shoes, and the police them with them big boots. Then step on and I put tap and spin round that when they look the whole of the skin come up and I just blood. So then the back, so then the kick, the scene and the cry said, and after then lock up and say, and I must stay to be an identification parade. So all the rest of them are coming after that. When them come, them say, no, one corporal rap, he must the commander now saying to Rasta, Rasta, say after me, Rasta fall and Babylon rise. And the rest of them will refuse to say Rastafari. All 10, 20 police around them want lick them one time, tell some of them all lick one another too. When Rasta call for water, they have all the jet hose from the fire chief and then pitch water in one place and have them a ground like they want drown you. And police hold Rasta 2 hands and 2 foot and swing him and fling them in, dash in the like all dead cargo. Then this set the door and them look on them again like they care with them drop on wall that if it was trimmed man, one of them couldn't live according to the brutality. When them pick up baton and throw in a Rasta head and when baton bust and left the sharp and then this dry in a brass of here so this cut come down, blood this bleed, they cover all the eye that you can't see. When Rasta work him out, the blood is separate up out of their head. Everyone come and you hardly can know them again because box lick and piss and kick each cell to keep in 3. Have you all 25 and more in one cell. 2 large riot baton I get at one cross I chest and one cross I back. I want ugly police and call him ugly hammer. Jail overload down there then transfer to Delphi, Palmo, Lucis, Sablama and more stations around. And yet in the still overload. All 25 in a one cell you know. That you have to take spell for just go the whole go catch blick of bread. And the time you trip blow at hard as a stifle. Some had to be innocent brethren, some get sentenced and some them charged and then now the judge named Sharara Granum that tried the case from start to finish. 6 times then take a night to the judge that said the bigger part is yet to hear. Up to now, you know, not even a word of sympathy to I and I the innocence. What I and I suffer now is enough to free our generation near and far.
Up to now, Ras Iyah there speaking to me in the early 1990s about what he experienced at Coral Gardens. Our late elder brother, he has now passed, speaking about his experiences at Coral Gardens and at the time in the 90s, early 90s, that saying to me, up to now, not even a word of sympathy. And one of our leading newspapers published a letter of the day yesterday entitled Rastas Weren't the Only Victims of 1963, written by Dr. Jephthah Ford. And he started out by saying, I cannot mind my own business. He said, the Coral Gardens incident is history well worth remembering for 3 reasons. One, the fact that policemen were also killed, and the fact that the inspector tried to delay and mitigate police firing at civilians, and that the fact that the entire population recoiled in horror and supported action against Rastafarians. You know what's interesting about this letter is that he is calling for reparations for he said the public defender calls for reparations for Rastas, but what of the other victims? And he named the detective corporal who was killed and so on. And what he has done in this letter is what many ignorant Jamaicans have done in their bigotry still, and their hatred, self-hatred, and their hatred also of Rastafari and the Rastafari community, is inability to separate the gang, the 5 gang members who burnt the gas station, who killed this police officer. His inability to separate that crime, that criminal act, from the injustice, from the brutality, from the collective punishment under Bustamante that was meted out to the Rastafari community in Jamaica.
How excellent is thy name, thou hast set thy glory above the heavens. For out of the mouths of babes and sucklings are thou art strength to still enemies. And
Mr. Ford is saying that we are the public defender is rewriting history.
Jah, Rastafari.
He's calling for true intellectual discourse. Well, we are calling for justice. He said what is being presented is but a one-sided rehash of a sad period in our history. He said if we are to learn from the past, let us have the truth. Well, the truth, Mr. Jepter Ford, is that criminals attacked a gas station, killed others, and killed a police officer, or I think 2 police officers died. Policemen were killed. And those criminals were tried by the state. 2 of them were hanged. 1 was retried on appeal and was freed. I think 3 were killed. That is what happened. What happened afterwards was a collective vengeance retribution on every single bearded person in Jamaica who identified or not as a Rastafari by the state. What you have done here, you yourself need to apologize. Do you see why there is righteous indignation? Do you understand that a lot of a so-called civil society segment of Jamaica still have this inherent hatred of Rastafari, an inherent hatred of themselves as Africans? Don't muddy the waters, Mr. Ford. Do not do it. Because justice must be done, and we will see justice done. Outrage you're hearing against an unjust justice system. Look to Canada. Look to Canada if Jamaica is to heal. Look to the example of Canada if Jamaica is to heal. If Coral Gardens had not happened, Tivoli Gardens might not have happened. And believe me, the state will do it again. What about Bustamante? Why must our children learn that he's a national hero and yet must not learn of reparations and the horrors of slavery? Why must we call him national hero? Asta Black is standing by, coming up on December 26th in Akompong in St. Elizabeth. The Rastafari I Friends is on. And Asta Black, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Sister Kabu.
Greetings. Greetings.
Greetings.
All right, so give us a quick little background to the Rastafari I Friends. What was the background to this? Why are Rastafari I Friends?
Kabu, I've listened to Bongo Isaacs over the years, and I hear of Unity. And I figure to have a I Friends, we don't use the word conference, I Friends, in the Maroon High Mountains, where Rastafari from all over Jamaica can gather and discuss what is of concern to us. First and foremost is the unity, what Bongo Isaac has been calling for years. Mm-hmm. And that is it. Yes. We don't want any kind of disturbance. We just want to move forward with an economic development plan for Rastafari to move forward.
All right, so that is the thrust of this is to in this forum to discuss the economic development plan going forward for the Rastafari community. Give us an idea of what format this will take.
We are working together as one. Whereas we're not bringing in any special guest speakers or anybody like that. We're just working together to plan the way forward for us as Rastafari. Mm-hmm. For example, tourism. Tourism is a big part of Jamaica economic thrust, whereas we as indigenous people of Jamaica, where people come to Jamaica because of the promotion that Rastafari has been doing in the form of Bob Marley and all our reggae artists, and we are not seeing any trickle down benefits from it. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things. Like, for example, in the high mountains of the Maroons, we have the middle ground mini resort, where that's where Rastafari-minded people want to come and see us. So joining forces with the Rastafari in the Maroon community and I on the lowlands of Jamaica, which they call it, coming together in that cockpit country, we can work together as one without any intruders or any stoppage or different mansions, pulling different ways. We want to have that one entity, so one come there with that fullness.
All right, and this is open to who?
Rastafari.
Okay. It's happening in Akompong. It's happening in Akompong. Is it also open to those who identify as Maroons?
Oh, definitely. Maroon Rastafari.
Okay. Maroon Rastafari?
Yes.
But not Maroons who are not Rastafari?
Well, who is not Rastafari is not going to be with us. So all Rastafari will be with us. And they are, each one of us know
who because we're doing this publicly, so I just wanted to let our listeners know who the iFriends is geared at.
Yes, Rastafari Unity.
All right.
For us Rastafari. We're not going there to have any confusion, no fire burning. It's just the business of Rastafari. And if you're not coming with the business of Rastafari in mind, then we don't want you to come because you're just going to be confusing things, and we don't want no confusion.
All right. We have just a minute now, as Asta Black. Tell us when, where, and time.
Yeah, it starts at 10 a.m. and it continues to 6 p.m. and it's Boxing Day. Boxing Day is when the slave masters pack the liquor box for us. And it's Middle Ground Resort, and the number there is 429-9107.
429? Say that again? 429?
9107.
9107. All
yes.
Right. Okay. All right. And it is on Boxing Day. It's the 26th of December. It's in Akompong. In Middle Ground, you said?
Yeah, it's right. Middle Ground mini resort.
In 30 seconds, how do you get there from Ocho Rios?
Wow, I can't give you the exact.
What is the best way to drive? Is it through Montego Bay or through Spanish Town?
Coming from Montego Bay, you go through my little district of Point, go through Eldersley, and it's right there. Just keep going all the way past Garlands and go all the way up.
What's the road condition like? Do you have any idea?
Between Garlands there, it's kind of rough, but when it's touch Eldersley going up, it's all right. Okay. And that's it. It's South St. James, the constituency of the Honorable Derek Kelly, where the road needs to be fixed because tourism is a must for the Maroon community, and if we get those roads fixed, we'll be all right there too.
All right. So once again, the Rastafari Friends focusing on economic development for Rastafari is happening on the 26th in Accompong, St. Elizabeth.
And if ones want to WhatsApp me, my WhatsApp number is 435-8401. We're organizing some transportation to go there from Montego Bay area. So they can WhatsApp me there at 435-8401.
All right. Thank you so much, Master Black.
Thank you very much, too.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth.
All right, we're going to go to the phone lines now to speak with Professor Vereen Shepherd about the upcoming event in Black River, St. Elizabeth on the 22nd, which is on Tuesday. All the finishing touches, I think, are in place now. The tribute to the victims of the Zong massacre. And Professor Shepherd has been spearheading the commemoration of his tribute along with others. She will be, we're standing by to speak with her on the phone lines. In 1781, as you recall, the ship the Zong, captained by Luke Collingwood, left Ghana and West Africa for Jamaica with 442 captured Africans. What happened afterwards is a travesty. Professor Shepherd, good morning.
Good morning, Cabo. Good morning to all your listeners.
Good morning. I know you're working very hard on this, Vereen, as you head to St. Elizabeth on the 22nd. Mm-hmm. In the first minute, because we don't have a lot of time, just remind our listeners of what's a Zong, and when we say tribute to the Zong victims, who are we talking about?
Okay, so the Zong was what they would call a slaver. That is a ship that was capturing and transporting forcefully Africans to the Americas. It was owned by a Liverpool consortium of merchants, and it left Ghana and arrived at Black River 22nd of December 1781. And on the voyage, over 60 Africans died by natural causes, and 132 more, at a conservative estimate, it might have been more, were pushed overboard to their death to save the voyage and claim insurance. Mm-hmm. So those are the victims that we want to honor.
Yes, and this has been done under a specific theme this year.
Yes.
Tell us what the theme is and why.
Well, we're saying 132 reasons to apologize. Because really, this is a tragedy in Jamaican history. Mm-hmm. And so on behalf of the 132 who were deliberately drowned just because of an insurance claim, we want to say we're commemorating the Zong massacre, 132 reasons to apologize. And the call to apologize is, of course, to the British, because Liverpool is in Britain. Yes. And they are the ones who sanctioned the capturing and shipping of Africans.
Mm-hmm. All right, Vereen, so on the 22nd, which is Tuesday, what will happen and when does it start?
So it's 11 a.m. We want people to come out on time because Dr. Bennett has kindly agreed to allow us to be there. That space is owned by Dr. Bennett. The Zong monument is on that property, and we want people to gather by the property to pay tribute. So what will happen is that we'll start with drumming from Ras Ivai and the family of Rastafari. The MC will be Sister Amina Blackwood Meeks, and we will start with a libation by Priestess Jamoke Abrams. I will give an overview of the whole incident. Then we will have tributes from various people who are going to be there, including Dr. Donna McFarlane, we are hoping that some of the politicians will turn out and the political leaders of St. Elizabeth. We don't know. We have heard from any of them, even though we have invited them. We have been trying to call the mayor, the Buchanan, and all the others, but we'll see if they turn up.
We'll see.
Then we'll have readings from different people in the crowd. We'll just tell people to come forward and give their own tributes, like an open mic. But also Colin Allen, Quilt, and Tribe Sankofa will be performing, because there's a very long poem called The Song by Norbracy Phillips, and Colin will be reading from that.
Okay.
So, and then of course we will have a floral tribute. We will, pay respect at the monument, and then we'll go by the river to pay some other tributes. So that's, in a nutshell, what we hope to happen on the day. We're sorry that we have 4 buses transporting people, but they're all full. I'm sorry.
Well, that's good news. That at least they're full. Well, if there's anyone who is, arranging a bus from where you're going, please let us know so we can say to persons, is a bus leaving Oteres or a bus leaving so-and-so, since the others are full. We're just 2 minutes away from the news.
Of course.
Why is it important to do this?
It is very important, because I was listening to you before, and you were talking about the fact that I think there's Ivan Van Sertima who said it doesn't matter how long ago the tragedy happened, we must remember. And you always say we have a moral obligation to remember. And until reparation is paid for the tragedies of the past, we will never forget. And we are calling on the British to own up to the tragedies of the past, their role in it, and to settle the account, which has not yet been settled. It is very important. We must never forget the suffering of our ancestors, and we must call for an apology, and we must call for non-repetition. And this is as important as all the other tragedies we have commemorated. And remember, that's in that very week, in this, this weekend into next week, we should be remembering the tragedy of 1831-32.
Yes.
Because around that time, Sam Sharp and his men and women would have been planning to overthrow slavery. So many tragedies in our past, we must never forget our ancestors who struggled so that we can be here now, even though we're not totally free, but still.
Yes.
We are living in times that are different from theirs. And as we remember Coral Garden, Morant Bay, Sam Sharp, and the tragedy of his hanging and the hanging of others, we say the Zong was before all of that. Let us honor our ancestors.
Thank you so much, Professor Shepherd. Looking forward to seeing you on the 22nd, which is Tuesday coming.
Tuesday coming.
Black
and
River.
I know people are into Christmas, but listen, our people came around that time too. Never had any Christmas. Let us do the right thing.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Pablo.
well, good. All right.
Bye-bye.
So, Professor Vereen Shepherd there talking about the tribute to the Zong victims that's coming up.
One of 5 inmates who escaped from the Spanish Town lockup yesterday is back in police custody. He is 18-year-old Akeem Hall of Beverly Flats in Newlands, Portmore. Hall was charged with robbery with aggravation. Reports that Hall returned to the Spanish Town lockup yesterday, accompanied by a pastor. In the meantime, 4 other inmates remain on the run. RFM News understands that the jailbreak took place sometime yesterday morning. It is understood that the men who were being held on various criminal charges managed to cut their way to freedom. In the meantime, the authorities are calling on relatives to notify them if any of these escapees contact them, adding that it is a criminal offense to harbor fugitives. The mutilated body of a 63-year-old farmer was found at his farm in Limeclin, Franklin, Clarendon yesterday. That is Lloyd Riley. Reports that Riley left home for his farm around 6 a.m. Relatives reportedly went in search of him after he did not return his usual time and discovered his body. The police were summoned and upon their arrival found Riley with multiple chop wounds. A 52-year-old man was shot and killed by unknown assailants at his home in Ginger Hall, St. Catherine yesterday. That is Glanston Wilson. Reports from the Linstead police are that about 8 p.m. Wilson and a female companion were at home when an armed man entered the house and opened fire, hitting him. The police were summoned and upon their arrival, Wilson was seen with multiple gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead at hospital. The female was not harmed. Head of the Police Traffic Division, Senior Superintendent of Police, SSP Calvin Allen, is again warning drivers about drinking and driving above the speed limit this festive season. According to SSP Allen, the Christmas season is a time of the year when there is a major hike in road crashes, which results mainly from speeding and drunk driving. In the meantime, Executive Director of the National Road Safety Council, NRC, Paula Fletcher, says there is also a concern about the major increase in crashes and fatalities which involve motorbikes since the start of 2015, especially in Western Jamaica. There have been 103 motorbike fatalities in comparison to 57 in 2014 and 51 in 2013. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security says arrangements have been made at post offices island-wide for the early encashment of pension vouchers under the National Insurance Scheme NIS. Pension vouchers payable during the week of Wednesday, December 30, 2015 to Friday, January 1, 2016 may be cashed as of next Monday, December 21. Pensioners should note, however, that the National Commercial Bank, NCB, will only cash vouchers on or after the date on which they are payable. In news overseas, the youngest convict in the notorious 2012 Delhi gang rape case has been released from a correctional centre. Legal challenges and protests from the victim's parents failed to prevent the release. The rapist, who cannot be named as he was a minor at the time of the crime, was sentenced to a maximum 3 years in a reform facility in August 2013. The rape and the subsequent death of the woman caused global outrage. Although the convict is now an adult, he was tried as a juvenile and has served the full sentence allowed. He has now been handed over to a charity where he will remain because of fears over his safety. 4 adult convicts in the case are appealing against death sentences. A 5th died in prison. Finally, some 22 buildings have collapsed in a landslide at an industrial park in southern China. According to the BBC, about 900 people have been evacuated, with 4 people pulled alive from rubble with minor or no injuries. So far, no fatalities have been reported. And those were the local and international headlines. News is next at 11:45. From the RFM Newsroom, I'm Primrose Oliver.
Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory.
We're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. We're inside of the final leg. 19 minutes now after 9 o'clock.
One who destroyed our enemies so that his people could be free. One who guided us by a pillar of clouds by day, ball of fire so I and I could see. Mighty God of Israel, Israelites, do you
All right, joining me in the studio now, Ras Iyah. Hey, Ivy, morning.
Yes, greetings, Cabo.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
And give thanks to be here, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you were here before when we were playing the tape. We were playing the program from 2013.
Right.
But you're really just joining us physically in the studio now. And it would seem, and I think people are going to immediately think you're here to talk about coral gardens, but not quite. I'm sure you'll have some response to that. But you're actually here on another mission, which is really for us to look at the what I'm calling the ganja renaissance in Jamaica in terms of the decriminalization, etc., and to ensure that there is no exclusion of the masses of Rastafari, the bulk, the people who have been farming, who have been to prison, who have been in the trenches literally for many moons at this time, well, over the many years, and then now when we have a situation where there is a loosening of the chains, so to speak, then we're not quite sure where we're going and how we're getting there. And this is why we've asked you to come in to help us to understand your own perspective on this, but also to help us to understand what you see as the best way forward, having been involved in this at such a level. But before we do that, your quick response on the Coral Gardens, the report from the public defender.
I haven't seen all the report, but I've been reading in the Observer. Days, I think from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there have been publication in the Observer.
And once again, we're saying to our listeners that it's also, the entire report is on the IRFM website. It's on the front homepage of the IRFM website, irfm.net. You click on that link that says the investigation, and it goes straight to the 75 pages. Sorry,
Right. So I've been reading and I've been listening both to your program, Cabo, with the public defender, and I'm listening to Muta's interview with her, you know. And first, I really want to give thanks that the report, at least a report had been given from the public defender to the Parliament.
Yes.
Recommendations, I've heard recommendations, some of which I think is really disrespectful of the Rastafari community. For example, recommendations such as the 10 million Jamaican dollars for how many...
But I think she has said in that recommendation, because if I read that recommendation in itself, she has said in that statement that that is an initial figure and that it is subject to review.
Yeah, well, I guess
right. So at least that there is that in that recommendation there is the caveat.
Right.
Yeah.
So things like those, but it's good now because I give thanks that I was the chairperson at the time when who invited Mr. Witter to come in, and because from the days of Junior was the first person to have brought in a public defender.
Which was Howard Hamilton, yes.
Howard Hamilton, right?
As a matter of fact, this thing is that I still have not received all the programs that we did over the years.
Right.
A lot of those were collected and given to the public defender's office.
Right.
So it's each public defender since the beginning, I think, have had somewhat to do with this, looking at it,
right.
But only now.
Right. So I give thanks because after Mr. Whittle had to leave office because of whatever, then there was an acting one in the form of but anyway,
Mokulo,
right?
Yeah.
Mokulo, right? And then she came. So it is good that it could have been brought up in this time because, to be honest, a lot of even Rastafari, Bridging and Sistrin didn't want to have anything to do with the investigation because they're thinking that nothing can come out of this. But I give thanks that in less than 5 years' time, right, a report had been given. Again, I say I congratulate her, but it's for I and I as Rastafari now, alongside with the Rastafari Coral Garden Benevolent Society to sit and reason and to get legal advice to what are the best ways how I and I should proceed, because at least this is a recommendation proposal coming from the public defender, and I still don't know how Parliament is going to react to it. We don't know how the government is going to react to it. So we have to be prepared and be vigilant in terms of taking up and doing the things that are necessary.
Because there are processes to this, and involvement of members of Parliament from every section of Jamaica, so that I understand that there are other claims that the Coral Gardens Benevolent Society had put forward. I heard Iyah Tafari say that to Jerry on his program, so that these claims should also be included in that debate, because it is what it is. It's a debate. It's not really in stone, you know.
Right.
So things can be moved out and so on, and you fine tune as you go along, so that there is work to be done.
Right. And I think
the lobbying starts now.
Yeah, I think the Rastafari, no matter the Rastafari community, should be given an opportunity to address Parliament, not just for it to be introduced or the report to be given, but for the individual within the Rastafari community to be able to address the Parliament, so that they realize that this is not just something that is being written. This is how I and I feel. This is how I and I seen. Taking into consideration all the facts, and the fact that today I and I still face discrimination.
And it is, I don't know. I mean, Canada is also a so-called Commonwealth. Jamaica is a so-called Commonwealth. And we see the Prime Minister of Canada making such a bold move without this long, drawn-out conversation, just stepping up and saying, this is what I want to do, and this is the mandate that I have given to my members of Parliament. I think that it's a total disrespect from the government of Jamaica in the way they have treated Rastafari over the years regarding all of this. But we're going to come back to these, IFE.
Right, but recall, Cabo, until now, an apology. The easiest thing to take place until now, not even an apology has been
But
given.
have you noticed over the years that PNP activists who, with a voice, have always come out in front of the Coral Gardens issue whenever there seems as if there's going to be a positive movement?
Exactly.
Have you recognized that PNP activists have always come out in front of it to say, it wasn't, Rasta was wrong, it wasn't just Rasta, what about the police officer? Remember that,
Exactly.
Watch them.
Exactly.
They have always done it.
Exactly.
We have had, and we can name them. The latest one now is the one we saw in the paper. Right? So this has always happened. Whenever there seems to be a movement on Coral Gardens, there is a prominent PNP activist. The last one was female.
Right.
Who come out to tear it down and to say it is the police officers who should be recognized.
Exactly.
All right. We can move on from that, because that is one thing, and so we're gone half an hour there now.
Exactly.
So the final thing is to say that your views on this, Rastafari should now come together.
Exactly. And there are many reasons, Cabo, why I and I need to come together. Right?
Yes.
Defend from the Coral Garden and the atrocities, the present situation that I and I face within this, where this marijuana industry is concerned.
Yes.
Looking at it from a financial point of view, is that for anybody to come and seriously benefit financially from out of this industry, they have to be in the position where they can establish type of facilities that will match the criteria of whatever
of the global standards.
Exactly.
And the global standards, though, and I want your response to this, is really a genetically modified standard. That's a global standard that's coming out of Codex. And we have to go there, Ivy. So let us talk about those global standards.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, those global standards in terms of from a medicinal point of view, right? We have labs out here now that can and are internationally accredited. So these labs supposed to allow farmers to bring in seeds and to bring in products so that they can be tested legally to find out what it is that we have here.
And what is that to bring from their own farms?
Right.
Right.
And
because these labs are based where?
All over Jamaica, because legally at the moment, Cabo, I mean, we read other day that BSJ will be importing seeds. At the same time, why is it that some interim period, and I've said this to, individual within the government of Jamaica, why is it that some interim period or a period is not given that people all over Jamaica can bring their seeds and bring their products to BSJ, to UA, to UTEC, so that it can be tested, so that we know what it is that we have here, whether we match that CBD standard that is required or that is regarded as medicinal marijuana, or what it is that we have. Because in the US, I mean, most of the herbs grown are grown under lights. And scientists will tell you there's nothing that is grown under light that can match that which is grown under in natural condition under good sunlight and so on.
So what is it then that is causing the state to be looking to importing seeds as opposed to looking at what farmers here in Jamaica are producing?
And this is where our voice needs to be heard again, Cabo, because I did tests. There was a company here from the US called Steep Hill, and I carried out tests in Senesbeth, in Hanover, in Westmoreland, and found marijuana with high CBD, just like how we found marijuana with high THC. So I know that what is regarded as medical marijuana, where CBD content is concerned, we have it here in Jamaica. It's just
why are we being told then that we do not have it? Because that is the school of thought.
Because in the first place, Cabo, most of these people who are in administrative position, most of these agencies that are set up by government don't know anything about the herb industry, and that's the reality of it.
But the danger in that is that Rastafari generally, ganja farmers, local ganja farmers who have suffered through the years just to farm ganja, are now being squeezed out of this entire process. I want to say something to you, Iyah. I was at the Cannabis Cup event in Westmoreland, and that was my main concern. That was my main concern after doing interviews, after observing, after attending seminars, quietly attending seminars and just observing. My main concern was the extent to which the local and the small ganja farmer will be squeezed out of this process. Your own thoughts on this?
All right, to be honest, there were negative reactions when I proposed certain things. Remember last year, I set up the first Ganja Farmers Association because what I was saying then, and I still saying now, that if I didn't do that, that the grassroots farmers and the Rastafari community would be pushed out of the business. So that's why we settled. But a lot of Rastafari brethren and sisters didn't see the importance of that, Cabo. Right? So
of what? Of forming organizations?
Of forming organization and making their voices be heard and that people can know about them. When I decided to do this cup, I sent individuals, we connected all the farmers association that I knew about. Right? In St. James.
No, but I don't mean those who were in attendance, because people could not come from any.
No.
I'm talking about what I heard.
Just listen out, right? Yes. So what I do, I connected these individuals, and I send individuals legally to pick up the entries coming from all over St. Mary, St. Thomas, and all over. So if it was a matter that I had known about any individual who wanted to enter, because it was there, and I said,
no, but you're missing the point. I mean, I'm not talking about the Cannabis Cup itself. I am talking about what the discourse that I heard in the different seminars that I attended, and also the way those who came in from overseas, the big money, so to speak, was in the grill on the weekend,
right.
And the way and the way that things were done, the warning bell to me is that this is not the Cannabis Cup event, but what is happening with ganja in Jamaica. It is not about the small farmer. It is not about, not just Rasta, but it's not about this local small ganja farmer who's been doing this for many, many moons. It seems to me as if it is geared more at big money, including big pharma.
And I totally 100% agree with you, Cabo, and that's why I'm here this morning. Because that's the same concern I have, right? Because that's why I say the facilities that will be needed to match up to the criteria of, for example, what will be recommended. The average grassroots individual cannot afford that, right? And the financial institution legally will not be allowed to finance these grassroots farmers. So they will now have to look for overseas supporters, which will be difficult to get because these traditional grassroots farmers they are not known. For example, like how some big companies here, I mean, when you look at a Ganja, I mean, company with 2 former prime minister on it, what position
and a former governor general,
right? What position is the grassroots farmers in to compete economically or political influence with these type of people? So I am 100% agree, and therefore he's still here to call upon grassroots farmers, upon the Rastafari community, to recognize how important it is to come together. Because if I and I don't come together with I and I people, everyone I and I classified as traditional Ganja farmers, as poor people, will be pushed out of this because the big investors will be coming in with millions, and they will be partnering with individuals out here who as a matter of fact was never involved in marijuana. It's just because, yes, it is now being legalized and there's an industry and money to be made while they're coming aboard. So it is for us to realize what is happening, and if we don't organize seriously, put ourselves in a position where we demand and command and they help to decide where the industry go, we'll be pushed out of it.
Yes, and you see the little piecemeal things like handing off a license and making a big deal of it. And Tony, I'm a virgin, I know say United, I know, but it is what it is. And Africa, I know them not necessarily night, because we heard what Tony Rebel said. You know, him said, listen, we've been doing this. You know, we've been doing this. It's just a piece of paper on arguing now, but we've been doing this. So that to make a big splash of that and to make that be your front page thing of, you know, here's another event that has been given license to so people can come there, come smoke ganja free. If it's a smoke screen. It's a smoke screen, Ivy.
It cannot stop at having an event, Cabo, when the big industry, when the big industry is being controlled by foreign investors and rich people here who used to fight against I and Herb. It cannot be like that. I want to be a part of that marketing force, marketing power to make money out of in this industry, not to give them permission to smoke a spliff or to grow 5 root of herb when the big money is still being made by foreign investors and these same people who have always been in control of the economy and the politics of Jamaica.
And that was always a danger when they began to debate the decriminalization. It was always a danger. It was a death knell that I sounded in this space, because I actually honestly saw this coming, that it's a piecemeal, it's a smoke screen where you decriminalize and you keep the masses as if
they are satisfied and they must be happy with that.
Yeah, and you must be happy with that.
Right.
Whereas there is a whole industry that's coming out of this that include 2 former prime minister, former governor general, multi-million-dollar corporations from Canada and other places that are partnering with multi-million dollars corporations here in Jamaica. Right. And then what? What happens to...
And then it become a next tourist industry, Cabo, like how it started in Negril, where poor people open their doors to 1 and 2 tourists. And that is how tourism started. Now you have big multinational, big hotels now where what is happening, what has happened to the people who started it? They are no longer recognized. They are pushed out. So it's the same thing now. In other words, our people... And next sugarcane industry will be created where our people are being used to plant and to do the hard work. But the big manufacturers are really the ones who really make the serious money. So what to do? The situation is that we as the people, and this is where the education of our people, where the industry is concerned, is important, because they have to know what is happening, and a lot of them don't know what is happening. But they have to put politics, partisan politics one side. They have to put religious thing one side and know that this is something that can serve the interests of our grassroots people's development, and as such organize themselves. The Rastafari community also have a serious responsibility in that we are not just satisfied with, having sacramental rights where we can plant some herb and we can celebrate.
But that is the trick.
Right.
That is the trick in the decriminalization, you know.
So that's what I'm saying. We have to focus on the big industry, Cabo, the big pie, right? Because otherwise, these people who control money in Jamaica, they are the ones who control the politics, they are the ones who control the destiny of the people. And I am saying this is the last straw or the last stranglehold of colonialism upon our people. Economics.
I saw people. There was some. You might not use some of the terms. You might not like some of the terms I'm going to use now. IB, it is no reflection on you. It is what I witnessed. But I saw secret meetings. When I went to the Cannabis Cup, there were secret meetings happening, and I'm telling you about these secret meetings. The big multi-million-dollar corporation people who are representing big pharma, and when I say pharma, I mean pharmaceuticals and pharma, F-A-R-M-E-R, the two of them. Big multinational corporations, multi-million-dollar corporation representatives were there at the Cannabis Cup, but not at the venue. They just came into Westmoreland, capitalized on what was happening there, and had secret meetings in hotels outside of the venue. And at these secret meetings, they outlined some of their business plans. Rasta not included in them. I don't even know if any Rasta was in them secret meetings, or maybe not. But ordinary local Jamaicans not included in those talks. People just came to this was the Mecca. Yeah, this was a central point where Ganja people with multi-million-dollar corporations were going to meet for a weekend. So let us come in. And they came from all over the world, and they had their secret meetings at 5-star hotels. These are people talking only English with received pronunciation.
Right. Well, Cabo, I went and addressed the Friday. I went and I addressed one of those sessions. And exactly what I'm saying to you now is what I said to that gathering. Because anywhere I go, I am who I am, and I talk freely. Nobody don't muzzle me. The said thing I'm saying to you, that we're not going to sit by and watch this industry being taken over by foreign investors and by people here in Jamaica who are responsible for our persecution, is what I've been saying from day one. Right? And that is what I've said to them. It came out in, that was the Friday, it came out in the Monday Observer. And I call also on the government to align itself with countries who have similar views in terms of decriminalizing and legalizing, because America seems to have a big stick over our head saying, you can do what I say, but never do what I do, because look at what America is doing. So in reality, I know of those meetings, and I went there. I don't think you went to all of them in the IB. No. I don't even think you knew about all of them either, because I don't think did you know about the one up at Rick's Cafe? No.
Okay, because you went to the one at the other hotel.
Right.
There were secret meetings all across Negril. Right. And granted, you were one of the chief organizers of the event there.
Of the event.
And not knowing that people had come in to capitalize in the way they did. So that the private sector in Jamaica, along with their multinational corporation partners, were hosting secret meetings across Negril at the time of the Cannabis Cup. And this, all of that also was a smoke screen. Now the question is what to do. I see also that there's a barrier to entry for groups that want to start cannabis organizations.
Right.
That there are a lot of obstacles placed in their way at many different levels. I am talking from experience. So this to me then is an interesting thing. Why is it so difficult?
Honestly speaking, Cabo, I don't think it's difficult, right?
IV, some people are having it really difficult.
All right, let me.
And we can open the phone lines and ask people what their experiences have been.
Because
getting their organizations registered. What is the situation with the word ganja? Nobody can use it. Somebody has registered the word ganja?
No. What is the situation, and that is what we have with the government at the moment. When I wanted to register Westmoreland Hemp and Ganja Farmers Association, we couldn't register anything with ganja, and we couldn't register anything with hemp.
You know that me I talk about?
Right.
That's what we're calling barrier to entry, you know?
Yeah.
So why couldn't you?
Because according to them, anything having to do with ganja is illegal. Right? And I had to register a next name. Right? But still go along with Westmoreland Hemp and Ganja Farmers Association.
But somebody have that name there. There's an organization that have ganja in them name.
It is not registered here.
Where it registered?
It's registered in Canada.
Which one is that?
From what I know, Rasta Ganja.
Not Rasta Ganja.
Right.
What the Paul Burke organization name? Is it a Ganja something?
No, Jamaica Growers and Producers Association.
Okay. So you have to register the name overseas before you can use it here, sir? And you can't use it here, same if you register it overseas?
No, you can use the name, but you cannot register the name here. It is not. And these are things that we've been discussing with different other ministers, because this is stupidness. You understand? If you look at the countries that in England and all these places who help, and America help establish and family laws to control and I down here. You can register things with Ganja. You can register companies. You can register products, right? You can register hemp wine. Hemp beer used to come from England, come to Jamaica, right? Hemp is a legal thing. You have the hemp seeds all over the world, and these things, yet it cannot be registered here in Jamaica. So these are barriers that need to be broken down.
And we see a lot of these products now in the supermarkets. I see Rasta Black sent me the other day a package that he saw in one of the supermarkets of that Ganja product in Jamaican supermarket.
And it needs a lot of voices, Cabo. It needs a lot of voices coming in. It needs a lot of people coming in, sitting down, standing up, reasoning, putting on paper what is going on, what needs to be done. So, for example, I am a part of the CLA board. I don't speak for the CLA board. And cannot.
You know that I did not introduce you as such.
Right.
Yes.
But I know that things need to be sent to the CLA board. Things need to be sent to the government, both to and especially industry and ministry, because most of these people who are now involved in the administration of the marijuana industry, Cabo, don't know about marijuana. They are learning on the job. They are, listening to consultants coming from the US and most of these places who, why not open the door and sit with your own people who have been involved in the industry over a period of time?
But what is preventing that? That is the question. Is this another political partisan gimmick where people are being put, are shuffled into position, just waiting for the floodgate to open? What is preventing the state, the government, from tapping into that institutional knowledge, that tacit knowledge that Jamaican ganja farmers have?
That one, the first thing government is going to say to anybody, they don't have the funds to do this and they don't have the funds to do that. Right? Because right now, there should be field officers going out into the communities, sitting down, talking with ganja farmers, saying to them, helping them to organize, saying to them what they can do or what they need to do in order to attract investors and so on.
And in order to not to be left behind.
Exactly.
Because there's an imminent danger that you're just going to wake up and wonder, what happened?
Exactly.
How come? I want to take some calls, Ivy, because I just feel like there are people who want to ask questions.
Yes.
Hotep?
Hi, good morning.
Yes.
Uncle Justin.
Uncle Justin.
I'm just calling in on the ganja issue as quickly as possible. I would just like to say that the Rastafari community should have approached the ganja issue in a collective manner. As a more indigenous group of people that are a collective group on their own, the approach to it should not have been individual organizations all over and so forth. To me, I think that as Rasta and as a person who is Rastafari, that the Nyabingi and the other Rasta organizations should have been brought together to deal with the government.
All right, we're gonna have Ivy respond to that. Ivy, your response to that?
Yeah, well, that was done, Cabo, and anybody who following the Rastafari history know, for example, that School of Vision, the whole approach to the herb issue was done collectively, in the sense that the Nyabinga House, School of Vision, 12 tribe was involved, Rasta Village, all of these different mansions came together I was asked to represent these mansion houses and mansions on the CLA board. That's why I am on the CLA board. So that was there. But again, I am saying that you have individuals and you have Rastafari groups who never did envisage certain things. And so they are now reacting. I had to be proactive because I saw down the road what would happen and tried to make sure so that it didn't happen, you know.
My brother, I have to take another one quickly. Give you 30 seconds.
Yes, well, again, we say these things, but we don't see it as a reality because we don't see that collective push in Rastafari towards the ganja.
Maybe it's a more business line.
Don't even know what's happening in the ganja field. They don't know nothing about anything about this ganja. I'm just trying to be as quick as possible, and I'm saying that there needed to be a different approach completely. And I spoke about these big corporations coming in to take over the ganja.
I do have to go, my brother. Thank you so much. We're going to continue the conversation. Yes, give thanks. All right. It's a conversation that, of course, we're going to have to continue. We're taking another call. Yeah, go ahead, Ivy.
And that is David from Hanover. I know him very well, and he knows what is going on. You understand? We have worked together with Hanover Virgin and assisting them and try to get that. He knows that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. In the meantime, Cardboard just wants to my Virgin and assisting them in Western Jamaica that we're having a reasoning at Pit 4, Nyabingi Center today. And we're looking forward
to Nyabingi Center. Hold on. Quickly. Caller, go ahead. Quick.
Yes. Hello. I have about 4 questions to have.
Quickly.
One of the questions is that why is now the planting ganja in university? And I would like to know if it's all the students planting 5 trees or how many trees they are planting.
And yes.
And the other question is that why is that they want to involve the bigger one who used to fight against it, want to involve in it now and want us to get ID to plant it? And the answer for it is that I will answer it. It is not going to work.
All right. Thank you so much.
And yes, one more thing now.
Yes.
Last thing. I won't keep up. If they don't listen what Rastafari is saying, is when things happen, they're gonna listen. And I believe so because we're out of time. And as Andrea, as I tell you this morning, ancestors is with you. They are all with you. Backing you, so keep going strong.
Give thanks. All right. Okay, so you hear those questions?
Yes. In the first place, she was going to answer it, because them just want to keep certain economic control over the marijuana industry.
Well, now that we know that,
right.
2 things are happening. You're mentioning something that's happening today.
Right. The reasoning is taking place at the Pit 4 Nyabingi Center, and that I will be there on the 7th of January celebrating Ethiopian nativity,
What time today?
1 o'clock. We start at 1 o'clock.
And then on the 26th, the Rastafari Eye Friends in Akompong, and I suppose some of these questions will be raised here because we're talking about economic development.
Right.
Then I'm sure that the issue of ganja licensing, legalization, and all of it
on the 26th.
On the 26th, December, Boxing Day,
right,
in Akompong,
right,
middle ground in Akompong.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned because I didn't know about that.
You didn't know about it. We interviewed Rasta Black this morning.
Right.
So it's happening in middle ground in Akompong on the 26th. The economic conference, iFriends, sorry, Rastafari iFriends. So we're out of time,
Right. I really want to give thanks to those who supported Rastafari Roots Fest. We know it wasn't without flaws, it had its hiccup, but it's for us to come together and see how we can make it into a better event,
And thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
this is always saying goodbye for today. Walk good. Tell them other one howdy. We're making way now for the bigger inside of it Sunday. Sunshine until next week. We'll see you. My broadcast assistant was Shamara Preston. Thanks to everybody who participated. Thanks to you on the social media and on the 107s. Thank you so much. See you next week.